Revenge films.
I met my wife through a mutual friend. We didn't become close immediately, but over time, we took interest in one another and began dating. After getting to know each other, we realized that we had similar interests and hobbies.
Were you able to complete level 7 of the game? I'm stuck at the level and haven't been able to move on to the next level yet.
I wanted to let her know that if she looked up information online, it was possible to get hints on how to beat the game. But then again, some people didn't want to do that because they didn't want to know how the game progressed. So I decided to give her some advice based on my own experience. Once we hit it off with our common interest in online games, things became serious between us. And before we knew it, we were married. Both of us had saved up money while we were still single, so we purchased a new house together. We were eager to have kids, so my wife decided to quit her job and concentrate on that. My wife had been working really hard for several years, so she seemed happy to have some time to herself at home. Every day, she waited for me at home with homemade meals and baked sweets. Soon after she quit her job, my wife became pregnant, and we were both thrilled. During her pregnancy, we went out shopping together for baby goods and enjoyed our life together before we became busy with the arrival of our new baby. My wife was now in her final month of her pregnancy, and her obstetrician told us that the baby was in breech position and that my wife had to get a C-section. The only thing that I was concerned about was the safety and health of my wife and baby. If having a C-section was the best option for us, we were okay with it. My wife wanted to have a natural birth, so I felt a little bad for her that things weren't going to be that way. I heard that once a woman had a C-section, she was required to have her second baby with a C-section as well. But my wife seemed okay with this. All she wanted was for our baby to be born safely. So my wife had our baby with a C-section as planned. We didn't know the sex of the baby until it was born, so we were delighted to know that we had a cute baby girl. At first, I wanted a boy, but after seeing the face of my baby girl, it didn't matter anymore. I was smitten with her. I cried happy tears the moment that she was born. I told myself that I would do anything to make my girl happy. 3 days after the birth of my baby, my mother told me that she was coming to the hospital to see her newborn grandchild. I told my mother the time slots that she could come to the hospital for a visit, but she ignored my message and came at a random time.
I can't believe that you agreed to have a C-section. Do you know what this means? If you don't give birth to your baby naturally, it means that you already failed as a mother.
Neither my wife nor I had expected my mother to storm into the hospital room and say something so mean. For some reason, my mother was really upset about the fact that my wife had a C-section.
You should have had a natural birth. That's what it takes to be a good mother. I bet you chose a C-section because it's less painful for you. But that was a very selfish thing to do. A mother needs to put her child's needs first before anything.
Mom, what's your problem? How dare you come in here and criticize Lena? Her doctor recommended that she have a C-section for the safety of our child.
I can't believe she got an anesthesia to numb the pain. A real mother goes through a painful birth. That's how women become mothers. I feel so sorry for my grandchild.
Lena wanted to have a natural birth, but her doctor recommended otherwise. She had no control over this decision. Lena went ahead with the C-section because it was best for our baby. And right now, she's in a lot of pain post-surgery.
I'm sure that if she convinced the doctor, she could have still had a natural birth. She was just being lazy.
Mom, if you don't stop making these mean remarks, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now that the anesthesia's worn off, Lena is in a lot of pain and she needs to rest. And every other pain she's feeling after giving birth is the same as it would be had she given birth naturally. Lena is not lazy. She went through a lot to give birth, and I'm very grateful to her. Don't you get it? If Lena didn't have her C-section, she and or the baby would be dead! I then slapped my mother in the face. I wanted her to leave. My mother fell onto the floor dramatically, but I was so mad at her and thought that she deserved to fall. She should have congratulated us, but instead, she was being extremely rude to Lena. Once my mother got up, I pushed her out of the room and locked the door. Having a C-section is traumatic enough. I mean, the surgeons cut open your stomach while you're completely conscious. It must have been an unpleasant experience for Lena. And I heard that it takes a really long time for the wounds to heal. In most cases, they don't fully disappear. I think that the fresh wound on Lena's stomach shows what she went through to have our baby. All women should be praised for carrying a baby for months and then giving birth, regardless of how it's done. I had no idea why my mother was acting like a complete monster. At first, my mother knocked on the door and asked us to let her back into the hospital room. But after some time, she gave up and went home. A few hours later, my father came to see us. He brought us a basket of fruit and seemed very excited to meet his new granddaughter. He was surprised to see Lena in tears. He expected the both of us to be happy, but we weren't. What's going on? Are you two alright? Is my granddaughter okay? I told my father about what my mother had said to Lena earlier. My father was furious when he found out about this. What was she thinking? I'm going to have a word with her. She needs to be put in her place. If anything, she should be thanking Lena for giving birth to our grandchild. Lena, I'm so sorry for my wife's hurtful words. She had no right to say those things to you. Thank you for giving birth to my beautiful granddaughter. I can't thank you enough. After that, my father said that he was going to go home and have a talk with my mother, but I stopped him. Hold on, Dad! You haven't seen our baby yet! You're absolutely right. I want to meet her. I asked one of the nurses to bring our daughter into my wife's hospital room so that my father could hold her for the first time. Oh, how tiny and precious. I could see that he loved his grandchild. I'm going to make sure that my wife never disrespects Lena again. A few days later, I received a phone call from my mother.
I need your help. Your father kicked me out of the house. I have nowhere to go. Will you let me stay with you for a while?
I can't let you stay with us. Lena and the baby are coming home from the hospital tomorrow. After what you said to her, I can't let you two be in the same room together. Dad must have kicked you out because he thought that you were being very unreasonable.
I don't understand why everyone is so upset with me. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't want Lena to think that her birth was painful because a natural birth is 10 times more painful.
Why would you say such a thing? What does it matter to you how the baby was born? Lena loves our baby. She would do anything for her.
Well, my father is upset with me because he won't take me back into the house. You're the only person I can depend on, Mark. I went to see your brother, but he wanted nothing to do with me either.
I had an older brother named Matt. After my father kicked my mother out of the house, she tried to stay with Matt and his family, but they were aware of what my mother had said to Lena. Matt's wife had a natural birth, so she didn't receive any harsh criticism from my mother. But when Matt and his wife found out about what my mother had said to Lena, they were very put off. When my mother had visited Matt's house, she made more rude remarks about Lena to them.
What a despicable mother. I feel sorry for my newborn grandchild. My grandchild is going to turn into a rotten child with a mother like that. I know that your children will turn out fine because Mary had a natural birth, like me.
Matt couldn't believe that our mother had the nerve to label our wives as good or bad based on the type of birth they had. You're the one that's rotten! Stop putting Lena down like this! She didn't do anything wrong! I'm ashamed to have you as my mother. I want nothing to do with a person like you!
I agree with Matt. You shouldn't criticize Lena because she had a C-section. That doesn't determine the kind of mother that she will be. You shouldn't discriminate against Lena or her child. It's not fair. I'm sorry, but you're no longer welcome at our home.
I was grateful to Matt and Mary for defending us. I wasn't going to forgive my mother either. I was determined to cut all ties with her. I don't want you calling me anymore! I want you to stay out of our lives! You need to resolve this with Dad, or go find yourself a cheap motel to stay at!
I don't have any money. I can't even afford a motel. Please, help me.
I hung up the phone on her. Out of desperation, my mother called my father. Fine. You can come home now. My mother was relieved to hear him say that, and rushed home. When she got home, she saw that my father had signed some divorce papers. I no longer want to stay married to you. It's not good for my heart or my mental health. My mother told my father that a divorce was the last thing that she wanted, but my father had already made up his mind. In the end, my father divorced my mother, and she was officially kicked out of the house. My mother got in touch with me and my brother and asked us to let her move in, but we both refused. My mother had never had a job, so it was going to be difficult for her to find work and stand on her own 2 feet. Because she looked down on others, it wasn't going to be easy for her to cooperate with others and work a job. I predicted that she wouldn't be able to make any new friends to support her, and she would end up spending the rest of her life lonely and poor. Oh well, she brought this upon herself, and she's going to have to live with the consequences.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.